Hi folks, thanks for joining. Welcome everyone. Hello, hello. It's great to see you all back here. We'll just give it a few seconds to let people sign in. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We're just giving it a few more seconds to let people settle down with their cup of tea for the next hour or so. Okay, fantastic. There's lots of stuff going on in the background there, I can see, so I think we'll make a start. Well, a big warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining this virtual tour coming to you live from Spain. And it's been a while actually since we've all seen each other online for an online event. The last ones we did were in spring in Le Brun in France and in Costa Rica. So for any newcomers to our virtual tours, my name's Sarah Frost. I'm NatureTrek's marketing manager, speaking to you from Hampshire. And joining me from our office team is General Manager Andy Tucker.
Morning, everybody.
Oversees many of our Spanish tours. And also joining us from 1,400 miles away are our good friends Simon and Niki, who are strategically positioned on a hilltop looking over the Strait of Gibraltar, which is the epicenter of migration there. And thousands of birds are soaring and gathering, waiting for their chance to cross the channel to their African wintering grounds. I can't wait to see what we've got in store for us this morning. Already things have been happening and kicking off really quickly. Simon and Niki are going to do their best at digiscoping the birds for us as they're flying overhead. It's quite a challenging task, but Simon seems pretty good at it. Yeah. If you have any questions throughout the tour, please do pop them in the Q&A section and we'll put them to Simon and Niki when we can. There's no limit to the amount of questions that you can ask. Please do just fire them to us. So without any further ado, really, we're going to step back and hand over. So Simon, Niki, thank you so much for joining us. For people who haven't joined before, just give a really brief introduction. Tell us what's happening, where you are, and let's see what wildlife we can find.
Hiya. Good morning, everybody. It's really great to be back here shouting at you from a cliff top again, as we were all those months ago, when it was kind of just such a blessed relief for anyone to be able to go outside and look at nature. I was planning to do my sort of usual Simon wants spotlights. I was going to say I was planning to do my usual sort of intro and tour around the Strait scene setting, but it's just kicking off massively already here. We've got honey buzzards, black kites, booted eagles, short-toed eagles all coming through. So I don't know, Frosty, if you managed to spotlight Simon's scope view.
Yeah, Simon is spotlighted.
Yeah, so it's I'm gonna wander straight over there, I think, and join him. So
wow, we've got a lot of stuff in the scope here. So what are we seeing here? These black kites, honey buzzards, what have we got?
It's just incredible here this morning. It's sort of the black kites have been moving through since late July, and you know, we're still seeing, on good days, we're still seeing thousands every day go through. We're just at the start of the honey buzzard season as well, so they're starting to really make up quite a bulk of the birds that are crossing. And this morning it's pretty much perfect conditions. It actually rained yesterday, which is not that usual for us in August, as you can imagine. So a lot of things have been held up here, unable to cross the straits yesterday. And so we've got sort of double or triple the numbers ready to go today. So it's really looking fantastic. I'm going to flip my camera around because I've got some black kites right over me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we can see them up above you.
So they're all heading. This is where we're located. I'm surrounded by. I've got a bunch of people here. It's like a real party atmosphere. We've got, starting over here, there's the counters from Fundación Migres. They're up here every day. They cross the birds. They cross straits.
So the counters, you say, they're counting all of the birds and the species that are flying past to keep a record of it.
That's it. Yeah, it's been going for, it's the longest running migration monitoring program in Europe. It's been going for, I think, over 25 years now. So the guy in the green in the middle is Alejandro. He's like the Hefe of the Straits.
Oh, Simon's got some good things. Sorry, keep talking, Niki. I'm just going to make Simon full screen.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to put my camera in that direction as well, in case we're doing the side-by-side thing. But here's a huge group of black kites coming. These will have all roosted somewhere communally overnight. And as the air's warming here, it's just like a really comfortable sort of, or I'd say sort of mid-20s here with really gentle breeze. So they're all just going, right, let's go.
Yeah, I looked at the weather forecast yesterday, Niki, and it looks like you had a nice gentle southerly breeze, which I guess is pretty much perfect for the birds, isn't it, heading south?
Southerly is pretty good. Normally here we have the wind is almost always easterly or westerly because of the geography of the area. If you get high pressure over the Mediterranean, it pushes it the air out to the Atlantic and vice versa. So for there to be practically no wind is quite unusual. And yeah, you're quite right. If it's coming from the south, so they're flying into it, that actually gives them lift. So they've got the thermals off the land, which is what they're seeking now. And then obviously once they get out over the sea, there's no thermals to help them maintain their height over the water, which is why they come here essentially, because it's the narrowest stretch of water between Europe and Africa. So they want the shortest possible sea crossing. So if there's, yeah, you're quite right, if there's a southerly breeze, then that gives them lift even when they're out over the sea. So yeah, completely ideal conditions.
And that's Africa that we can see over the strait there. You can just make out the line of it, can't you, Niki?
Yeah, you can just about see it. I'm pointing the camera in the general direction of the north coast of Morocco. So if you can make out the sort of the bigger bulk, the mountain across there is the Jebel Musa. That's one of the it's the two pillars of Hercules, basically. So you've got Gibraltar as one of them, or Gibraltar, and the Jebel Musa are the two, you know, like the gateway to the Mediterranean, as was, I suppose, where Hercules ripped the continents apart. I don't know if you'll be able to pick them up, but you can actually see those kites that we were just watching are now going across. They'll probably be visible as specks already. Sort of disappearing into this. We've got this lovely gentle mist this morning because there's no breeze to blow it away. So they've got their visual, they can see the Jebel Musa, the conditions are ideal, so they're just going to go. They'll probably keep going all day.
Fantastic. Yeah. Niki, I appreciate that I think you have your camera on a selfie stick. I don't know if there's any way for you to possibly just cup your microphone a little bit, just to shelter it from the wind a tiny bit. The wind seems to have picked up since we hopped online. There we go. It's not very easy for you to do that. I appreciate when you got it at an arm's length in front of you.
I know. I have really short arms as well, Sarah. So. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to head over to Simon anyway, because I'm sure everyone's dying to see him.
When Sarah was giving the introduction, did Simon have a short-toed eagle in the scope? It was only a tiny tile. I couldn't make out clearly. Was that a short-toed, Simon?
Yeah, I'm mute myself. Yeah, it was a short-toed eagle. So we had a short-toed eagle at the moment. A lot of black kites, but quite early on, quite a few. Oh, here. Short-toed eagle right here, actually. I'll try and get this one in the scope, but maybe you can get this one on.
Okay, I'll spotlight you, Simon.
Let's see.
The chaos of live birding from 1,400 miles away.
So it's really big. There you go. See the flat, long wings. It's quite a long-winged eagle, about 1.75 meters. It looks quite flat across the surface, but like a buckled carpet, as somebody once described it to me. It's got that sort of kink in it, a ripple across the wing. It's one of the larger winged eagles here going through. And that really struggles crossing the strait because, of course, it's designed for thermaling over land. There's no thermals over the sea. So they have to come here to the narrowest point between Europe and Africa, just 14 kilometers wide here at the Straits of Gibraltar. So that's a big one.
And Simon, we've got someone asking, how long does it take a black kite to cross the strait? I'm not sure if Simon heard. Niki, are you there? Oh, we've got
short-toed eagles right above us now. I don't think you can make that out on my camera.
I can. I'll just take Simon off and I'll put them on your camera. Niki, can you hear me all right? I think you're very, very quiet.
Down a little bit out of wind.
Yeah, I think your phone microphone is possibly trying to cancel out wind noise, but in doing so is also cancelling out you.
Right, okay. Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Thank you. I was just asking Niki, how long does it take a black kite to cross the strait? I'm not sure if you replied, but we didn't hear.
Okay, it's really interesting actually. I mean, it depends all on conditions, of course, because if they get blown, if there's a strut trying to cross in a wind and they get blown off course, then you know, they end up flying a lot further than the 14 kilometers, which is the kind of optimal shortest distance. But from birds that have been, you know, tagged as they've been going across, somewhere between half an hour and 45 minutes seems to be, you know, once they leave this coast, if they can just kind of glide most of the way across the shortest distance, about half an hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
But that's probably amongst the most, some of the most treacherous minutes of their entire migratory journey. So it's,
wow.
It's really interesting. And that 30 minutes, it can take, you know, if we get a strong Levante here, the easterly wind for a few days, it can take days before they even get to attempt that 30 minutes. So how long does it take to cross the straits? Up to a week.
Blimey. Yeah. And they're crossing now, and you're explaining that they need to rise up on thermals and gain enough height to be able to cross the strait. So why would you be crossing in the morning? Isn't the hottest part of the day, when they're going to be the strongest power from the thermals, going to be midday, afternoon?
It's true, and what you tend to get is a distribution of species. That they've spotted an Eleonora's falcon seemingly up here, but I don't know if that's going to
wow.
It's gone. Yeah. Yeah. So voila. What we're saying about thermals, so you tend to get a change in the mix of species. So this early in the day, you'll get the more compact raptors that are more capable of powered flight, like the black kites and the honey buzzards will tend to just go as early as they can, because they're, okay, this is fine, we'll go now. And then they've got the rest of the day to carry on sort of traveling down through Africa. And then the sort of longer winged ones, like the short-toed eagles, we can see them, they're kind of up and about testing the wind. But in terms of morphology, the longer the wing, the better they are at gliding, but the more costly powered flight is, if that makes sense. So they really don't want to be beating those wings at all if they can help it. So yeah, it'll tend to be, you get this early push of the birds that are more capable of powered flight and can do it for longer. And then as the morning heats up and builds up, then the short-toed eagles and griffon vultures later in the season, that kind of thing, they'll go later in the day. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh, it's really interesting. And Guy Wilkerson has asked about wind turbines operating, and I know both you and Simon know a lot about this. He's asking, is there a system to switch these off during key migration periods?
That's a really, really good question, and a really apt one for reasons that will become apparent later. So yeah, there are a lot of wind turbines in the Straits because it's super windy and we all need to make a cup of coffee in the morning, right? So it needs to come from somewhere. But they put them up here when it was still military land. And it was, I mean, they used to be some of the most deadly wind turbines in the world. And over a period of time, a lot of campaigning, the situation where we are now is that the wind farms fund the organisation that does the counting, that's doing the counting behind me. They fund them to train ornithologists that work on the wind farms, and they can turn them off. It's a really superb system. We had, even since I've just got a little flow of black kites right overhead here.
Oh, lovely.
It's dead at the moment. But these guys will, it's got better even since we've been here. I mean, like back before anything was happening, there were something like 400 griffon vultures a year were hitting the turbines, which is just horrendous. And then sort of 7-8 years ago, they got that down to 50 or 60 a year, which is, you know, it's still awful, but it's at least manageable. But nowadays, the system is so good that each sort of group of these wind turbines that you can see in the distance, each one has an ornithologist working there, and they have an app on their phone. So if anything comes past at all, they could just switch it off sort of almost turbine by turbine. It's that precise. So it's great for the wind companies because they don't lose a lot of power generation. And obviously it's fantastic for the raptors because, you know, somebody's got their back, as it were. And a journey like this to be any more treacherous than it is. So
that's great. It's a great example of conservation efforts being able to work with an organization, with a business, and keep sort of both parties happy.
It's really effective system. Okay, good, Simon. Whoa.
Hello.
Hi, Simon.
Hi. Yes, pretty mega here today.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, great to be with you both this morning. I think we're all feeling a little bit of lockdown nostalgia today because it was, well, just over a year ago that we got you online and loads of people joined us, and thanks for all your praise over the last few months, folks, joining us today. And for those of you at the Bird Fair that came out to our stand and said you appreciate all of our virtual tours. It's a bit strange for us now. We're almost kind of getting back to normal, and here we are doing another virtual tour with a couple of hundred people joining us online from all around the world. So yeah, great to be back. And one of the offshoots of doing the virtual tours last year was a bunch of people signed up to join a tour with us both. And in fact, Mary Ross, you've just made a comment. She's with you on the Gibraltar and Tarifa tour on the 8th. She says, Holton Burrs back for us.
We'll do our best. Yeah, we'll do our best. I mean, this continues. You have no reason to worry, Mary. This is this amazing spectacle never really ends. So we've been watching this kind of stuff since July, end of July, and there'll be birds crossing till mid-November. So this is merely the warm-up. It's all going to be fine.
Our migration here starts. Autumn migration starts like really the first week of July, but mid or July kicks off big time with the white storks. And as you go through July, more black kites, more white storks. And then August is crazy, September crazy, October crazy, November crazy. It just keeps going. So everything, the whole world's going to pass through here, and every species has its time to pass at different times. So now we're coming to, well, we're actually through the peak of black kites, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of the most numerous raptors that passes through here. But also you get these massive congregations of black kites, which is really cool. And we locally call them millenadas, which look, you know, just spellbinding. We're seeing some of those at the moment, which is really nice. And yeah, that's interspersed with honey buzzards, short-toed eagles, booted eagles. We had a group of 1,140, just one group of 1,140 white storks together yesterday. They tried to cross and then they turned back. So we're really hoping they might come.
Yeah.
They went back to the rice fields.
I can't imagine trying to keep on track of that number, sitting with a clicker, if that's all you're using, trying to count that number of storks?
Yeah, let's you got to have a lot of clickers.
It's got thumbs like Popeye.
Wow.
Yeah, so when they're soaring, so the white storks to me are very, very interesting, not least because they're super impressive when they're in these mega groups. But they're soaring around, getting the height that they can off the land, so that obviously they've got to drift out over the sea, dropping all the time. But they all act as a super flock, really. Each one being a node in the flock, searching out the optimal thermals, and then popping up from that and following each other and getting the best height, and then going out. But of course, that can make them quite timid in terms of crossing. So if one's like, I'm not sure about this, starts turning back, then maybe the whole group comes back as well. And often more or less about 5% of the group will come back across the
This migration like gets in your blood. I understand that you two, when you're not working, when you're not guiding, you're up here anyway in your own free time, counting and observing, and it's just addictive. It's
completely addictive. Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, it's two things. It's the kind of anything can go past. You know, we get all kinds of like vagrant stuff come through, and you know, like just then suddenly there's an Eleonora's falcon or banners popping up, and you know, so it's the kind of excitement of if there's a large number of birds, some of them are going to be unusual, but really it's just what makes it so accessible and brilliant for anyone who's interested in birding or wildlife of any kind. Really, it's just the spectacle of it. I mean, it's hard to explain just through images, really, the sort of sensation, what it feels like to be part of this migratory flow, and like this the sort of sense of purpose of all these animals sort of throwing themselves into the void over the sea to try and get to somewhere where they kind of just know innately they need to be, but don't even know why. Oh, running's happening.
What's happening?
No, running.
Right, I'm going to spotlight Simon.
Yeah,
he's got something.
Yeah, we've got some really nice low short-toed eagles coming. I feel a bit lost at my bins, but more black kites. Really big group of them, sort of amassing over the beach just next to Tarifa.
That's very impressive digiscoping from Simon. I have to say that is not easy getting.
The star, isn't he? Yeah. Sweet shot.
You sort of mentioned the different times that the different birds will migrate and make the jump over the strait, Niki, but Ian Woods is asking, is there a difference in height that the different species will set off across the strait? Presumably heavier birds would need a greater height to go across.
Yeah, it's so sorry if I sound like it all comes back to whatever the conditions are of the day, if you like. I mean, ideally they'll all gain as much height as possible, because the more height, the less times you have to flap the wings. But yeah, you're quite right. Again, it comes down to the powered flight. It's the wing length more than the weight, I think I'd say. So the black kites and honey buzzards are more willing to set off low because they know they have the energy to make it to the other side. But for example, the griffon vultures, when the young griffon vultures go in October, November, there's a really interesting statistic, sort of a coincidence. So for every, let me get this right around. So for every meter of height that a griffon vulture gains, it can glide for 10 meters, right? So the hills, the height they can gain off the hills on this side of the coast, they can get up to about 1,400 meters, and the Straits is 14 kilometers wide.
Oh, perfect.
So how's that for one of those natural coincidences? So in perfect conditions, they can glide the entire way without beating their wings a single time. But of course, what invariably happens, there is no such thing as perfect conditions, really. So at some point, they have to start flying. And then, yeah, it's quite, Ian, was it? Sorry, it's quite right. The more height they've gained, the less they have to flap, because that's particularly treacherous for them. the worst at crossing, probably, aren't they? They're the ones that,
Certainly up there. They're the biggest wings, aren't they? They
Yeah.
cross regularly anyway.
yeah.
What we find when we're watching them going out like today, so they're getting as high as they possibly can with the conditions and the thermals that are available for them to hop onto, and you see them hopping from one thermal to the next, getting closer to the coast. But as they go out, they're obviously drifting and dropping all the time, and we either get wind from the west, which we have today, a little breeze from the west, or the east, or maybe it's got some south and north in it, but it's nearly always from one side or the other. So that's a crosswinds. That's problematic for them in some ways, but it's also a blessing in another way as well. So as they're going out, they're getting pulled by the winds. They're getting pulled towards the Jebel Musa and Ceuta, which is over here on the Moroccan coast. And then as soon as they're dropping to a certain level, they have to turn into the headwinds, which slows their ground speed. Which slows their ground speed. It gives them that extra bit of lift. You can actually see these guys are going into getting pulled out here into this valley. They're going to try and find some hillsides to get a thermal. Actually, some of them are thermaling just over.
Oh wow! Yeah, let me just turn around. Sorry for everything.
Wow.
That's quite arty, isn't it?
So we monitor the migration throughout the autumn. Of course, there's a spring migration as well. And unlike some bottlenecks, we have both ends are really good. So from February through to June, it's very good migration. It sort of tails off into May. The honey buzzards sort of mark the last of the soaring birds coming through. And then as soon as July, we're straight back into autumn migrations. It's pretty constant here in the Straits. It really is just migration nearly almost every day.
Migration.
Niki, I think you're just above Tarifa, aren't you? Just to the east of Tarifa.
Yes. Yeah. Would you like to look at it?
Yeah. I'm just going to share my
Tarifa.
Google Maps because someone's just asked, who is it? Jenny Griffiths just asked where you are. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and show people on Google Maps where you are, and then you can give us a little bit of a panorama.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see if this works.
As a Montague's Harrier.
Gracias.
Okay, I'll abandon that for now. Let's try and get on the Montes.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be scopable or not, but
Yeah.
we're trying for it. It's going straight out. They're one of the ones that don't. You want spotlight? Spotlight, please, for Simon.
Yeah. All right, folks, just bear with the slightly blank screen for a minute while Simon tries to get on it.
It's gone out. It's halfway to Morocco. Okay. Oh, so Tarifa, yes. Are you doing your?
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring that up. Is that okay, Sarah?
Just a second. You start. Yep, we can see your screen now.
Right. Okay. So Simon and Niki are literally on the southern point of the Iberian Peninsula. So if I zoom in, here's the port town of Tarifa. And I think when Niki does a panorama, you'll actually be able to see the harbour wall. And I think the guys are just up on this area called Collar de la Costa, just overlooking Tarifa, or somewhere up here. So they're just slightly to the east of the southern point of the Iberian Peninsula.
Perfect, Andy. Thank you.
So if I flip that round then.
I'll just spotlight Niki for a second. Sorry, Simon.
So you're right. So why not start from there? So as we showed you, here's the north coast of Morocco.
Sorry, Niki, we're struggling to hear you a little bit. I think it might be the wind. I know you're doing your best to cup the microphone, protect it from the wind a little bit. But if you could just repeat what you were just saying.
Yeah, so I'll come a bit closer to the. I'll do away with the selfie stick for a moment. Bear with.
We're bearing with. That's all right. Yep.
Yeah, so the north coast of Morocco, we're just Tangiers is sort of just around the corner. You can't quite make it out from here. So we're opposite the large modern port of Med, the big port. So coming around here, the white buildings you can see, that's Tarifa, and you might just about be able to make out where there's there's like a red and white mask just to the right of there in the view. That's Tarifa Island. So that's the tip of Tarifa Island is the shortest point to the coast, and the opposite side is the shortest point between Europe and Africa, and that's 14 kilometers. So here, I mean, we're just literally along the coast, so it's not much further than 14 where we're stood here.
We've got lots of, sorry, Niki, go on.
Yeah, so then going around here, this is the beach of Los Lances beach. So I don't know, perhaps there are people who've been here before who are sort of have fond memories of wandering down there to look at the intertidal habitat. Up above us, we've got another huge kettle.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Mostly black kites, but I think there's certainly a couple of short-toed eagles in there, booted eagles. Here's a short-toed eagle, the largest one drifting out the top. And I think Simon's going to be, it's almost too close.
I've got both in view right now, but actually I think if Simon's not got anything, I'll just take him off because you can't really appreciate the kettling when the image is so small. If I make that full screen, you can see it just for now. Simon's got a few things. I'll swap the spotlight. There we go. We've got a lot of good questions coming in, folks. Keep them coming. Niki, we've had a few people asking about the drought conditions, and has this affected the migration, the timing of migration, the amount of birds that are going?
This one is a booted eagle. I don't know what I'm moving my camera to follow it, but yeah, Simon's following a
We've
nice
got
booted eagle.
Yeah.
On his screen there, it's quite nice views. Simon, do you want to take the question, or are you busy? Drought conditions affecting migration.
Has it affected the migration? Have the birds left earlier?
Affecting timing, no, because let me just bang that down here. It affects the birds for sure. I'm just going to put this down somewhere that you can see some birds crossing there. So it affects the It affects the birds in terms of them feeding, but this migration is driven mostly, for most of them, by photoperiod change, by daylight length. And the changes in daylight length trigger them to go. And different birds at different times are triggered by different daylight lengths. Yeah. And a lot of these birds are going down to sub-Saharan Africa, most of them going to the Sahel. So the black kites, the short-toed eagles, booted eagles. The honey buzzards are going further. They're going to the moist forests of Africa. Ospreys, for instance, they're passing. We're seeing a couple of those yesterday. We haven't seen one yet, but
I'm going to flip it back around because
cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, nice flow there.
But yeah, keep
and so so when there's drought conditions, they're not being driven by food so much, although the availability of food is an important factor. It's not the driver of migration. It's this change in daylight length. So, and that's because they're able to feed a lot more daylight hours as they literally chase the sun around the globe. So yeah, it can affect them because obviously that can affect food availability for things like osprey, for instance. A lot of these birds we're seeing passing now are actually feeding on reptiles and amphibians and small mammal species. So in time, yeah, sure, for some of those species it could be affected, but for many not. One of the key issues here is actually the availability of water is being used for unsustainable agriculture, and that's true globally. And often wrong type of agriculture in the wrong place, draining aquifers that would otherwise fill natural wetlands. That's a real problem for nature, and what we eat is really important because it's affecting these birds. And
Great. Listen, when you're hosting a tour down there in migration time, what kind of percentage of the time, how much time would you spend up on a watch point like this, looking for kettles of birds coming over? And when you're not doing that, what kind of other activities are you doing in the area?
Eating cheese,
having a lovely picnic, in the shade, sitting in a chair, watching raptors go overhead. Yes, it's not just all at well. There's wetlands here as well. There's the Salinas development. It's a great habitat for Coke forest as well. There's a whole range of different small birds to look at and other species as well. There's the wetland of Lahanda, which is actually was profiled in the global bird. And there's a real mix. If anybody's been, I'm sure there's a real mix of habitats here, different experiences, and of course, if it's good, we're going to be at a watch point. We're going to be seeing this magic of migration because.
Let's not forget also the sea, because we also.
Niki, sorry, do you mind shouting a little bit? We're struggling to hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Let me breathe on it a little bit.
If you can, maybe cover the mic a little bit from the winds, that'd be great.
Yeah,
sorry, I know it's hard.
So I mean, one of the always a highlight is weather permitting, which it usually is. We go out on a boat trip out into the Straits themselves. So at its best, you get a beautiful mixture of got common striped and bottlenose dolphin resident in the Straits. You've got longfin pilot whales. Then on lucky days you can pick up migrating fin whale, sperm whale, and then of course fantastic suite of birds. And occasionally you get you're right out there in the middle, and there'll be like a flow of migrating raptors going overhead as well, and that's just like mind blowing. You've got this kind of animals moving east to west across the sea, and animals moving north to south across the sea, and it's like just the epicenter of everything, isn't it? It's amazing.
And you notice even when it's quiet, around there, conditions, a group of 500 striped and common dolphins together,
like a super pod. Insane,
and then we had a fin whale as well, 2 fin whales. That's the second largest whale in the world, and that's passing through the Straits. Birds crossing from the Mediterranean into the Atlantic or vice versa. As well. And of course, you've got the meeting of these two currents, the Med and the Atlantic. Saline, salty Mediterranean meeting the more fresher water of the Atlantic, and that gives rise to lots of different nutrients that lots of different species are feeding.
We've got a few more questions coming in, folks, which I'll put to you. Niki, I don't suppose there's a chance you could pop back to where you were standing previously. I think it was maybe a little bit more sheltered and just
I'm doing it now.
Mindful of appreciate it's not always easy for you, but just still struggling to hear you a little bit and pick up everything that we're saying. But we've had lots more questions coming in. Adrian Thurlow, hi Adrian, is there any evidence to suggest that some kites and eagles are attempting to overwinter in southern Spain? Thanks to global warming and them wanting to just stay and not make the effort of crossing?
I mean, there's always a handful of particularly booted eagles, short-tailed eagles. A small number always do stay. I mean, like most things, it's kind of it's about the normal distribution curve, isn't it? And the vast majority follow the migratory route to the end, but some will always, maybe for reasons of personal fitness, you know, they can't make it that year, then yeah, there are always a small handful that stay behind. Yeah, for sure.
And we've got birds that don't make it for physical fitness reasons and things, but what happens if they get halfway across the strait and then realize, heck, I don't think I can make it? Birds presumably must sometimes land in water. You know, can they take off from the water if they're there?
Some of these birds can swim maybe for like 10, 20 minutes at most. So if they do land in the water, it's normally fatal for them. And even if they get out of the water on the shoreline, it's very hard for them to take off then, so they can be attacked by gulls.
Egyptian vulture.
Oh yeah.
There's Egyptian vultures going over juvenile, just over Simon's head. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm just admiring Simon's clicker there. So he's got different coloured clickers, and these are for different species.
Yeah.
So interestingly, white storks, for instance, so we have more white storks overwintering now, but actually as a percentage of the population, it's still more or less the same percentage. White storks have, of course, increased as well, but most of the population, about 80% of the population, actually migrate. So it's still more or less the same. And yeah, we do get the odd booted eagle along the coast between here and Malaga, for instance, overwintering. But generally, most of the birds still go. But then you can find a bird like there was a black kite, wasn't there, that had bad feather growth.
Oh, the one that looked like a comb.
And that kept trying. Yeah,
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 it was
right.
so bad. It looked like a flying comb. It was like, there's no way that's going to be out across the strait.
It was trying until about November, you know, from July until November. So sometimes, yeah, you have birds in bad condition because maybe it's malnutrition in the nest or something like that, where they don't actually develop the feathers properly. We have a big short eagle.
Oh, that. Shall I do that? Yeah, I'll get Should do that. Okay. It's happening again. So, like, as if to back me up on what I was saying, now it's getting hotter here. I don't know if you can see this, but those are mostly short-toed eagles now. So there's other stuff mixed in there, but like it's the turn of the bigger birds now are sort of starting to attempt the crossing. Beautiful, just really sort of, yeah, wow. God, I mean, just dozens of them now, sort of. It's the mix of species completely changed since how it was when we started the call. So off they go. These guys are going now.
It's brilliant.
Wow.
So they're making the crossing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if we can follow them a little bit further on their journey. They get distant very quickly, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're basically heading straight out into the mist.
Yeah, if you can spotlight them.
Over. Could you spotlight Simon, please?
I would be happy to. There we go.
Yeah, sort of just straight over the heads of the assembled raptor worshippers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful views of short-toed eagle in the scope there. See those gorgeous long wings. They you can probably see them better than I can actually on the screen, but you get this beautiful patterning underneath. Kind of really light, fine barring underneath on the more adult birds, which if people have been here before will probably recognise the phrase Viennetta eagle, because they sort of bear. Oh, look at this lot! Oh my God, it's literally like a river. This is quite extraordinary scenes.
That's great, Niki. I guess the Straits of Gibraltar draw birds from the bulk of Western Europe. Is there kind of a masked line down the centre of Europe where birds west of that line migrate down over Tarifa and birds east of that line migrate down over the eastern Med through Greece and Turkey?
It's really complex, Andy, and it's sort of at that point where, you know, if you stick a satellite tag on a bird at the moment, you learn something interesting. So, for example, oh God, which tale to start? Well, so honey buzzards, which we were hoping to sort of highlight for you today. They do a kind of anti-clockwise, sort of known as anti-clockwise loop migration. So if you can imagine in the spring, oh, right on cue, here's some honey buzzards going out. Should be the smaller ones in my camera if that's spotlighted, but maybe they're too small. So in the spring, the urgency to get to the breeding grounds it is very strong. You know, they take much bigger risks in the spring, so they tend to move across on quite a broad front and cross the Med even at some of the wider points. So the eastern birds go straight up across the east narrow, where the Med narrows towards the east. But in the autumn, that urgency is not there. They just have to get to the wintering grounds as safely as possible. So what they do is we get birds from Hungary. We get there's a male that was tagged and followed for 3 years of his life, who breeds in Hungary and comes all the way across the landmass of Europe to get to Africa across the Straits, but then returns to Hungary across like wider parts and more eastern parts of the Mediterranean. And then there's, for example, Italian short-toed eagles, the adults, once they know what they're doing, they actually come all the way up Italy, across Europe and back down here to migrate across the shortest point of the sea, because the Straits of Messina are too wide and they can't physically get across. So it's a really complicated picture is the answer, and I think one that we're still sort of learning more about exactly where all these birds are coming from. Spotlight on Simon, please.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Niki, just a few minutes ago, you were talking about sort of straggly birds that were going to try and make the crossing. So just going back to that and talking about birds that might not be fit for it. Walter Burns, hi Walter, nice to see you again, is asking, is there any evidence of avian flu affecting the birds that are migrating?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe when I pass to Simon, we've certainly had some pretty big outbreaks among cranes last winter, and I believe storks this autumn as well. You know, these are the kind of birds that are more communal in their nature and tend to move together in large, colonies and flocks and things. It's certainly transmitting through them, and also the seabird colonies in the more northern parts of Spain have been affected badly. Raptor-wise, I'm not sure what is avian flu in raptors.
You can hear the frantic clicking.
Yeah,
we've not had any. I know you guys have had a lot of issues with seabirds contracting avian flu. We had one period where we were very worried that maybe it was coming here.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's not here, and hopefully it doesn't get here. But we have had some instances of avian flu, but not any big outbreaks in colonies and things like that. So hopefully it stays that way, but let's see.
Suddenly,
and with,
oh no, they're all just high up there.
Those buffalo there, right? So,
and you're both in a prime position to be viewing any African species that might be wanting to move north. Guy Wilkerson is pointing out to have had cattle egrets, glossy ibis, etc., in significant numbers in the south coast of the UK this year. I saw a good handful of cattle egrets just this weekend. So are you seeing an increase in more unusual birds that are more typically from the southern realms making crossings coming up to Europe?
I think the best example of that is probably the vultures, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So we've had there's some critically endangered species of vulture in West Africa. So thinking particularly about Ruppel's vulture, but latterly white-backed vulture as well. So what happens is our vultures, from it's kind of like more of a juvenile dispersion than a migration. But when they fledge, the first year vultures all leave the colonies in France and Spain and head south. They migrate to Africa in early November mostly. We do a trip for that, which is really spectacular, that migration at that time of year. But what happens when they get across down to places like the Gambia and Senegal, they're meeting up with and sort of feeding together on carcasses with rupels, whitebacks, that kind of thing. And because there are so few of those two species left, it's getting to the point where they're more likely to encounter griffon vultures than vultures of their own kind. So what sometimes happens, and seems to be happening with increased frequency, is they get caught up in this kind of conveyor belt when the griffon vultures have sort of come of age, as it were, and had their gap year in Africa, and they move back to Spain to find spaces in the colony. They often bring a number of those vultures with them. So up till now, it's been Rupel's vulture, and they're increasingly recorded in the Straits and further north in Spain. And indeed, last year we were lucky enough to be working with the Fundación Migres guys to put satellite tags on some vultures, and one of the ones that turned up at the ringing station was a white-backed vulture, and that's now still floating around Spain somewhere. I think it was up in Badajoz in Extremadura last time I heard any information about it. So that's a real notable and interesting one for us, is these vultures turning up, which could be great. Could be great for them in terms of the amount that can be invested in their conservation, but really problematic if it turns out they can hybridize with griffons, because that's how a species gets diluted out of existence, really. So watch this space to see what happens with rupels and whitebacks in Europe, I suppose.
We've got a fantastic kettle of birds in the scope there that Simon's just put on. Thanks, Simon. That's brilliant. And Niki, you were just talking about Fundación Migres, and folks, for those of you who've joined a virtual tour before, you know that they're all completely free of charge, but we do offer an opportunity to leave a tip if people would like to. There's no obligation to, of course, but it's much appreciated. And for this virtual tour, if you would like to make a donation, the proceeds will be going to Fundación Migres. We'll provide you a link where you can just donate directly to them. And Niki, do you want to tell people a bit more about their work? You were just mentioning it. Wide and varied, but focused on research and conservation of migratory raptors, I think it's fair to say.
All migratory birds.
All migratory birds, yeah. So they run this incredibly important monitoring program. They do a lot of research into how birds interact with wind farms and what measures can be put in place to mitigate the presence of wind farms and keep loss to an absolute minimum, or even eliminate it. They have projects on critically endangered Egyptian vultures in the area. What else? They're helping ospreys, providing nest sites for ospreys. They're an incredibly hardworking, brilliant bunch of people who do some really great stuff here. So we have our own not-for-profit association. We support various projects across the East Atlantic Flyway. So what we'll do, Frosty, is we'll give, it's called the Flyway Birding Association. What we'll do is we'll give you a link to that, and you can donate. If people wish to make a donation, they can donate through that, and it will be channeled towards some of the great work that Fundación Migres do right here in the Straits. So.
Yeah, that would be great, folks. We'll send a link out later today, so if you'd like to leave a donation, it'd be really much appreciated, and you can do so. We've still got time for a few more questions coming in. Jeremy's asked, apart from the raptors, which are the birds across the straits, where you have mentioned some of the birds in addition to raptors, but he's also asking, do some cross at night? Are there any night crossings that you're aware of?
Yeah, so a very good question, because until relatively recently, I get distracted a lot by birds. So there's nothing like loads of juvenile coming up from this valley. Yeah, so before the advent of telemetry, we didn't know that much about a lot of these nighttime movements. We knew there were some small birds moving at night, but it is possible to go to some of the lit areas where there are, car parks or something like that. You can find huge numbers of small passerine migrants in weird bushes in the middle of car parks, and it's quite phenomenal here, the amount that do pass. Of course, we don't know entirely how many, but we think around close to probably about 6 million birds pass through the straits, which is a huge number, and that's probably, well, for sure, that's not all of them. So there are many more that pass that we don't know about. With the advent of night recording and things like that, that's really, opening up new possibilities potentially with software recognizing bird calls that are going over, for instance, corn buntings going over here. So maybe we'll find out more about that in the future. But we know that some of the species like roller, for instance, which we don't see that many of, we see a few but during the day, but we think they probably go at night. You can see them early mornings in the valleys here, but a lot of them probably go overnight, and the ones that are here in the mornings are probably resting up maybe to go overnight. So for small birds, definitely at night. And we hear lots of weird and wonderful things going over our house, which is just over there, which is, kind of odd to hear flamingos going over at night. So,
on a
mountain. Very cool as well.
Yeah, and bee eaters as well is like, it's always they just missed a bunch just before the call actually, but they kind of, that's always just, they add a real nice kind of bubbly soundtrack to the day, and the night. They roost outside our village, and they always sound like they're on their way to a party. They're incredibly sort of hyped up and buzzed to be on migration. I was there. So shall I just keep saying random bird names and see if they'll turn up?
Okay.
Anna Falcon.
Everybody
yeah. So so they add this lovely sort of splash of colour, and you get kind of swifts. Yesterday there were swifts. We just ended up right in the centre of literally just coming past our faces, so you could hear the wings, common and pallid swift. And we get alpine swift going through here as well, which is like, that's a whole lot of swift right there.
You can see 5 swifts here.
You can see 5 different swifts here, can't you? Someone should do a trip for that, shouldn't they?
Somebody should.
Like just over the course of a swift weekend. And then you can come and see all 5 species of swift in this area. What do you think, Frosty?
Sounds brilliant.
Nice bit of subtle advertising there, Niki. Yeah, we'll do a tour over a long weekend in July.
We're going to be, we have tours here all through the year, don't we? Spring tours. And if you like to go slow as well, this is the perfect place to go slow. We've got chairs for you guys, ready, warm and ready for you to sit in a chair, relax. Maybe if you want, with a glass of wine, if you wish, and look up. It's perfect.
That's it.
Yeah. Spring or autumn. Yeah. Which is all the year, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have summer and winter, only spring and autumn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a short.
I should get back on.
Yeah, see if there's any.
Let's see if we can get another couple of views in the telescope just to round things off. We're in no rush to tie things up. We did say 45 minutes. We're up to an hour now, but we're in no rush.
Are we? Wow, that was
an hour's flown by.
Yeah. Oh, we've got some stuff going. It's kind of things are starting as it heats up. Things are starting to drift a little higher. but still, then just as you think it's all gone quiet, another sort of huge group of things turns up really close, and it's getting to be, so it's just 11:30 here, which is normally, it's stork o'clock.
Stork o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, my watch says stork.
Yeah. I mean, you can almost set your watch by it. There should be huge groups of them turning up any minute now. So we're always sort of keeping our eye on the skyline for those, because that's a very special moment if you find yourself in the middle of a flock of storks. I've got a booted eagle right in front of me. I think Simon's got a big kettle on the opposite hillside. Oh, a swallowtail butterfly just flew right over my feet. So there's lots of other wildlife to look at here. We have things like two-tailed pasha butterfly, swallowtail. We have a population of monarch butterfly as well, if you want to see monarch without leaving Europe.
Nice.
Yeah. What's he doing?
These birds
there they are.
Out here.
Yeah.
They're going out over Strait.
What are they, Si?
Mostly, that's a booted eagle there. That one. See the white with the black trim? It's a short, compact eagle. It's about the size of a common buzzard. Common buzzard well. And quite flat wings, slightly downturned towards the tips. This colour morph, pale colour morph, those were beavers, I think. Those are beavers. Beavers calling. It's very hard for me to see with the bright sun, but maybe you can see. I saw a group there below that booted eagle going out, but maybe get ahead of that. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so we can hear bee eaters somewhere close.
Oh, right.
So sometimes you just get to hear them and not see them, because they make a lot of noise and go out higher than the eye can perceive. But sometimes you get the kind of moment where they're literally flying over your feet and through the legs of your scope. Let's see what these ones do.
Right, guys, I personally, I've just got to head down into the NATREC office 20 minutes from where I live to give an interview. So I'm going to leave Niki and Simon and Sarah just to enjoy a few more minutes of migration, and they can wrap things up. Great to see you again, Niki. Thanks to you as well, Simon.
Thank you,
Sarah,
Andy.
I'll catch up with you later on. And thanks to all of you that have joined us this morning. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy a few more minutes.
Thanks, Andy.
Have a nice day.
Thanks.
Good. We're still on, aren't we?
Yeah,
We are still on.
we
Cool.
are. Do
That's
not
good.
swear.
So
Okay, now
we've got some people here following the route of the osprey down, and they're Conservation Without Borders, and they're filming the migration here at the moment, hoping for an osprey. Well, they've had 4 already the last 2 days, I think. So we don't get huge numbers of those, but they pass through here, and well, they're seeing lots of other things as well. Where's Mel? Mel's gonna. Hi, Mel.
Hello.
Mel's from
Hi, Mel.
following the flight of the osprey. I'm gonna get out of the way.
Hello, Mel. Welcome.
Hello.
So you're
I'm
following lots of ospreys.
I am part of this wonderful expedition. So we started in Scotland about a month ago, and we are stopping at various spots along the way to document how the ospreys are doing and the conservation efforts that communities are putting together along the way as well. And we're doing bird surveys at those spots, and also site assessment is to kind of document the threats that the ospreys might be facing along the way, and how and what communities around those sites are doing to protect and help with conservation of those ospreys, to help them make their way. And we're going to do that all the way to Ghana into Africa. So we got 14 countries, 10,000 kilometers.
Wow.
do. So we'll be meeting with the locals to see, you know, what is happening, what kind of changes has been happening in the last few decades, and see if we can spot some of the tagged ospreys too that we met already along the way in the UK. So we'll try to keep our eyes open to see them as well as they migrate south.
That's fantastic. What really worthwhile and rewarding work you're doing. And are you finding it fairly straightforward so far? Is it difficult to find the osprey? Is it all right, easy, or?
I would say we've been very lucky so far at the places where, you know, you don't know if you're expecting them or not. We have like seen ospreys almost at every site we've been stopping at. So I think we've been pretty lucky. In the UK, we stopped at some like known osprey site where people are actively like monitoring them. So we kind of expected to see them. But the other sides like here or in the Loire estuary in France, we stopped that. There's no guarantee we'll see them. It's just a stopover on their migration, and we have seen them, so it's very exciting.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. Well, there you go, folks. You know, you learned.
There you go. We have a research team. I'm part of the research team, and we also have a media team. So we're documenting and filming and taking photos, and we'll be making a documentary out of this whole journey at the end too. So there'll be many outcomes.
It's really cool.
Brilliant. You must make sure that you send us the documentary so that we can. I'm sure our viewers would be really interested to watch that, and we can send that out to people and spread the word.
Great. Yes,
so that's Conservation Without Borders. If people want to check them out, it's really cool.
Conservation Without Borders.
Yeah.
We are on every major social media, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So most of them is under Conservation Without Border, and the expedition is called Flight of the Osprey. So definitely follow us.
We will. We'll be sure to do so. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. Thank you so much.
No worries. All right. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah, you too. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. I'm not sure if Simon's able to get anything else back in the scope. I'll switch to him very briefly.
Any last minute raptors photos, my lovely?
Over that hillside, I'm just trying to get it in focus. But
yeah.
Over that hillside, there's probably well over 2,000 birds up there.
Wow.
There's black kites, honey buzzards, hooded eagles, short-tailed eagles. Just try and find some.
I just don't know where to point the camera, really.
They're either too close.
Yeah.
Never the right distance away.
I'll flip mine round as well.
That's all
maybe
coming
one of
over
them will
this
be
ridge
lucky.
line. That turbine is off. These turbines are off.
So Simon, have those turbines gone off while we've been doing this presentation?
Yeah, they've been turned off specifically because of the raptors that are gathering in that area.
That's amazing. So just while we've been live, those have now been turned off through the help of the conservation projects and efforts of people like yourselves watching these birds.
Yeah, so that's happening right now, and I can see 4 sort of ranks of turbines, and wow, yeah, so 2 of them are off. One of them was off a second ago and is now back on again, and one of them is working away, generating green electricity for all of us. So yeah, you can have tea now. The turbines are running.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, when people have got the determination and resilience, you know, great things for conservation really can happen.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
and it can only get better as, you know, motion sensing gets better and heat sensing, and turbine design is coming on all the time. So
no, I really applaud the efforts of yourselves and the rest of your team that you have out there. It's highly commendable. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, we get back to counting soon, but with Fundación Migres, we work really closely with them. We're partners with them, and if we're not guiding, we're counting. But we're really keen to show people this marvelous spectacle. It's not that far away from the UK either, really. It's quite easy to get to, and you know, we're looking forward to September. Lots of people coming. and well, we get to show people this magical migration again, which is brilliant. Just particularly after COVID, you know, this is good. We love doing this as well, but it's hard to capture what's going on right over your head. It's impossible, and you've got to be here to feel it as much as see it as well. So, my stalk's not coming yet.
Oh.
Sometimes the white stalks come so low over here. This is a really good point here. They can literally hear their wings flapping.
My goodness.
And then soaring around. It's the air and everything moving. It's really special. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, that's just given us such a fantastic overview. It's immersed us in it for an amazing hour, you know, a wonderful hour. We've just been transported away from the UK and, well, from our homes, if we've got people watching overseas, to just a fantastic spectacle, really, of nature. And thank you all so much for joining us, and a huge thanks to you both, Simon and Niki. You've just been absolutely fantastic as always. I've absolutely loved sitting here watching all of this. I could stay here for another couple of hours or so. I'm very jealous that you're all both going to be sitting there for the rest of the day.
Just leave it on.
Yeah, just leave
it on, screen it on. Yeah, why not? It is quite tempting, actually, to do that. Well, folks, it's been lovely to see you all online again. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll send out a link to the recording if you missed it or missed part of it, if you joined late, or if you want to watch anything back. I'll send out a link to the recording this afternoon, along with a link to where you can donate to Fundación Migres if you'd like to. And we'll hopefully have another VT in the next couple of months or so. We are sort of beavering away in the background, trying to think of things and work with our ground agents to get more dates up online. So you'll hear about it through our e-news. And if Simon and Niki have got any extra ones they'd like to do, I'm sure we'll just jump at the chance to do that.
It's again every day.
Every day. Same time tomorrow, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Simon, Niki, you've been amazing. And we'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, guys. It's a pleasure as always. Thanks for joining us for a beautiful morning.
No problem. Thanks for having us, and good luck with your counting for the rest of the day. Don't mix up those clickers, Simon.
I try not to. Thanks.
All right. Take care, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.